Happy Father's Day 2020. As the father of 3 daughters and 2 sons, I'm grateful to each of them and to my wife, not only for making me a father, but for making me a happy, contented, sometimes laughing father. It's now been 14,896 days since the birth of our first child, Joe. Or to look at it another way, I've been a father for 2/3 of my life. It's been a great ride. You know, the birth of each of those children changed my definition. With Joe, I became a father, but with Joe and Jane, I became the father of a daughter and a son. With Kate, I became the father of daughters and a son. And with Alex, I became the father of 2 sons and 2 daughters. And then with Anne, I became the father of 3 daughters and 2 sons. In fact, sometimes when people ask me if I'm a parent, I'll say, yes, I'm the proud father of 3 daughters. And then I'll pause for just half a comma and say, and 2 sons. And I do the same thing now with grandchildren. If people ask me how many grandchildren I have, I'll say I have 6 granddaughters. And then I'll pause and say, and 10 grandsons. And it's amazing to me that each one of these children, each one of these grandchildren is a unique individual, similar to but different than all the other 7.7 billion human beings who are alive on the planet today. And speaking of being alive, you know, last Father's Day we weren't in the middle of a global pandemic. We hadn't seen COVID-19 upend our lives and our work and the economy. I would not have believed it if you'd said, hey, in Father's Day 2020, you'll be there, but you'll have seen more than 122,000 of your fellow Americans die from the pandemic, and that globally, almost 500,000 people would have died. Last year, I made a Father's Day video, and I looked back at the many fathers in my life. Here's what I said then. Who are the influential fathers in your life? I could name at least a dozen. One of the strange gifts of having my own dad die when I was a child is that I've sought out surrogate fathers throughout my life. And although I've gotten to know some tremendous men, my actual dad, Joseph Lyman Finlayson, remains a great influence for good in my life. He was born in 1912, the year the Titanic sank. He grew up in rural Utah in the Millard County towns of Oak City and Leamington. He served as a Mormon missionary in Germany from 1933 to 1935 as Adolf Hitler was coming to power. Dad later became an FBI special agent and a stockbroker. He fell deeply in love with my mom, Adine, and together they doted on my sister Joanne and me, teaching us to love music and fresh peaches, to ride bikes and horses, to love family and friends, to love picnics and travel, to love reunions and family time in front of the fireplace or in the glow of a Christmas tree. Dad died from lung cancer at age 51, just a couple of weeks after the assassination of President Kennedy in late 1963. So today, on this Father's Day 2019, I'm remembering my dad and several other fathers in my life. For example, my grandfathers, Joseph Trimble Finlayson and Theodore Richelieu Sundberg, who were born just a decade apart and only about 130 miles from each other. My grandpa Finn was first on the scene in 1876. He was born to a cattle rancher in Oak City, Utah. My grandpa Sundberg was born in Park City in 1886, a decade later. Grandpa Sundberg became a mining engineer, held several patents, married my grandmother, Edna, fathered 2 daughters, my mom Adine and my Auntie Flo, and then left them fatherless when he died from leukemia at age 36. My grandpa Finn became a cattle rancher, teacher, superintendent of schools, state legislator, and was somewhat of a Renaissance man. He married my grandmother Edith. They had 3 daughters and 4 sons, and he lived a long and happy life of 85 years. I also have a secret grandfather, Marvel George Nell, who quietly married my grandmother Edna in 1943. Nell, as we called him, was a veteran of World War II, a successful owner of the Nell Insurance Agency. He was gregarious and kind and funny, and he lived 4 decades with my grandmother, died in 1977 at age 71. One other father I'm remembering on this Father's Day is my stepdad, D. Keith Chipman. D. was born in Kaysville, Utah in 1920. He attended Brigham Young University on a football scholarship. He served in the Navy in World War II, and he became a sports writer and wire editor for the Salt Lake Deseret News. He had 3 children with his first wife, Elaine. They divorced, and he married my mom in 1970. They had some rough years before he joined Alcoholics Anonymous and dried out in 1979. Then they had 3 fairly happy decades together prior to his death from cancer in 2007, age 86. At his funeral, I said this about Dee. He never told me that I would personally find great joy in athletics, but he sure gave me a knowing smile when I signed up for the World Senior Games. He never told me that I should write, not just for my work, but for my personal well-being. But he shared his memoirs in progress, and eventually I caught on that writing was not only good therapy for Dee, but could be good therapy for me as well. Thank you for your words, Dee, your words of encouragement, what you wrote, and your spoken words as well. Simple, powerful phrases like, "Tremendous, my boy, tremendous." So, on this Father's Day of 2019, I want to borrow that thought to express my appreciation to all the fathers in my life, grandfathers, stepfather, the fathers of my grandchildren. To all of them, I would say,
It's still a movie. Let's take a moment.
Tremendous, my fathers, tremendous. Have a great Father's Day.
If you hit it again, it'll break again.
Got to be careful.
So that was 2019, and this is 2020, and hopefully in 2021 I will be able to add to this story once again. Again, happy Father's Day.
What have you guys been
Father's
doing?
Day. Happy Father's Day, Dad.
Happy Father's Day, Dad.
Happy Father's Day, Dad.
We love you.
We love you.
We love you.